Hello and welcome back to the Brian and Patti podcast.
No, it's the Patti and Brian podcast.
All right. The Patti and Brian podcast. You know, after all these years, you'd think I'd remember the billing order.
You'd think, but here we go again.
Today we're doing something a little different. We're taking you back to the spring of 2019, to a week that meant more to us than we probably even realized at the time. A week in Florida that was equal parts vacation, pilgrimage, and healing.
It was beautiful, honey, and complicated.
Meaningful. So let's set the scene. It's April 2019. Just 2 months earlier, in February, we said goodbye to my dad. And honestly, those 2 months felt like we were underwater. Everything was muffled, distant, heavy.
Your brother Rick and his wife Mary sensed what we needed before we did.
They really did. Rick texted me one day and said, "We have the condo in Tampa. It's yours for a week." And honestly, I almost said no. I almost convinced myself we couldn't take the time, couldn't accept such a generous gift. But Rick was persistent and generous, and we decided to go.
Smart man, your brother.
One of the smartest people I know. And Mary, God bless her, she made sure everything was great. Clean sheets, refrigerator handy, even local restaurant recommendations. They turned what would have been just a place to sleep into a sanctuary. I cannot overstate how grateful Patti and I were, and still are.
We arrived in Tampa, exhausted in every sense of the word. But there was also something else. There was anticipation, because you were going back, weren't you?
Yes, I was going back home where I lived in 1965 and 1966. I hadn't been to Cocoa Beach in, it must have been 54 years. I was 7 years old when we moved there. My younger brother Jeff was 6. The twins, Rick and Randy, were just 3 years old. As I look back, everything just glowed. The whole world was shot through Technicolor lens. Now, to understand why we were even in Florida back in 1965, I need to tell you about the Marion Power Shovel. And trust me, this isn't just some industrial history. This is the story of America, and in a very real way, how we got to the moon.
I love when you get into this mode. History Professor Brian.
The Marion Power Shovel Company was founded in 1884 in Marion, Ohio, where Patti and I call home. For decades, Marion built the world's largest earth-moving equipment. We're talking about machines that literally shaped the modern world. They dug the Panama Canal, they excavated for the Golden Gate Bridge, and during World War II, they built equipment that helped the Allies win the war. But in the 1960s, Marion got involved in something unprecedented. When NASA decided they needed to transport massive rockets, and I mean massive, we're talking about the Saturn V, which was 363 feet tall and weighed in at 6.5 million pounds. From the Vehicle Assembly Building to the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center, they realized no existing vehicle could do it. So they turned to Marion Power Shovel.
And of course, Grandpa was a part of that.
Yes, my dad was a part of that. Marion designed and built 2 crawler transporters. And folks, those aren't vehicles in any normal sense. Each crawler is 131 feet long, 114 feet wide, and weighs 6 million pounds. I looked it up. It moves on 8 tank-like treads. To this day, they are the largest self-powered land vehicles on Earth. Each one costs about $14 million in 1960s dollars. That's over $100 million today. Well, Marion sent a team of supervisors and engineers to Cape Kennedy. That's what it was called before it became Cape Canaveral again, to oversee the crawler operations. And our dad was one of those supervisors. He was there to make sure these behemoth machines did what they were designed to do: move rockets safely, precisely, and slowly. We're talking 1 mile per hour from point A to point B.
1 mile per hour? That's walking speed.
I remember my dad and his Marion colleagues wore these distinctive white hard hats with a big red M for Marion on them. Years later, I found an exact replica of that hard hat online. I couldn't believe it. It's one of my most prized possessions. Sometimes I put it on and I just think about him, about what he did, and about being part of something that historic. So that's why we went to Florida. NASA needed Marion. Marion needed supervisors. And suddenly the four of us kids, me, Jeff, Rick, and Randy, were living what we felt like a permanent vacation in the Sunshine State.
Tell me about the hotel.
Well, at first NASA put the workers' families up in a hotel. Can you imagine? Every morning felt like we were on vacation. There was a pool, always a pool, and Mom would take us swimming while Dad was at the Space Center. Later, we moved to a condo that had a pool. I'm telling you, Patti, for a 7-year-old from the Midwest, this was paradise. Every single day felt like summer, even when we were in school.
You went to school there?
We sure did. And here's the thing I have never forgotten. I remember one day, they let us out early to watch an Apollo rocket launch. I mean, think about that. Sorry, kids. School's out early today. We're going to watch history happen. I remember we all filed outside, we shielded our eyes from the Florida sun, and we watched this tower of fire and ambition lift off into the sky. Could actually hear the sound. It was like nothing else. It was visceral.
Not many kids can say they watched the space race from their schoolyard.
Not at all. And here's another thing. We had a TV show filming in our hometown, I Dream of Jeannie. Barbara Eden, Larry Hagman, the whole crew. They set it in Cocoa Beach. Now, how many kids can say they had a hit TV show set in their actual town?
Not many. You were living the dream.
We were living the dream. Sunshine, beaches, rockets, and a genie on TV. Mom would take us to the beach, I remember. And because Dad worked for a NASA contractor, we had clearance to visit him at the Space Center. We got the full NASA tour. I remember seeing the massive vehicle assembly building. You've seen pictures. It's that enormous cube-shaped structure that's basically the size of a small mountain. Dad worked near there, wearing that white Marion hard hat, making sure those crawlers did their job perfectly. And Mom, bless her, she had this thing about dressing us kids. She'd dress Rick and Randy, the twins, in matching outfits. We have the pictures, bright colors, very 1960s. Oranges, yellows, bold patterns. And she liked to dress me and Jeff alike too. We looked like we walked out of a Sears catalog. Looking back at those old pictures, it's both hilarious and sweet.
I've seen those photos. You were adorable.
I'll have to take your word for it. I also remember 1967 when the first Super Bowl happened. I didn't fully understand what it meant, but I knew it meant something big. I remember having a Super Ball, those bouncy rubber balls. I think it was related to the Super Bowl. That's how they got their name, Super Bowl, from the Super Ball. 7-year-old logic. And that's when I became a Green Bay Packers fan. Vince Lombardi, Bart Starr, the Ice Bowl, all just around the corner. So then we fast forward to April 2019. Patti and I flew to Tampa, picked up our rental car, and decided to make the drive across the state to Cocoa Beach and the Kennedy Space Center. It's about 3 hours from Tampa, cutting through the heart of Florida. And it was a long drive. I was nervous, more than I expected to be.
I could tell. You were quiet in the car, not your usual talkative self.
I think part of me was afraid the magic wouldn't be there anymore, that I'd build it up in my mind and really would just be strip malls and tourist traps. But another part of me, the part that was still thinking about my dad, needed to go. I needed to see where he worked, what he helped build. I needed to feel close to him again.
We got there early. First people through the gates at Kennedy Space Center.
Yep, first people. And the weather was exactly as I remembered. Sunny, hot, that particular quality of Florida light that makes everything look sharp and clear. They still call it the Sunshine State, and I can see why. But Cocoa Beach itself had changed a lot. It's been over a half a century since we were there. So that's to be expected. But some of the things were exactly the same. The Atlantic was still there, still that particular shade of blue-green. The air still smelled like salt and sunscreen. I remember we took the bus tour at Kennedy Space Center, and as we rolled through the complex, just past the Vehicle Assembly Building, past Mission Control, the memories just flooded back. I could see 7-year-old me holding Mom's hand, squinting up at the rockets. I could see Dad in his white Marion hard hat, serious and focused, doing work that mattered.
You started crying on the bus.
Yeah, I couldn't help it. I felt like Dad was there with me on that bus, sitting right beside me, pointing things out, telling me stories about the crawlers, about the launches, about the incredible privilege of being part of something so much bigger than yourself. The tears streamed down my face, and I didn't try to stop them.
It was beautiful, honey. Sad, but beautiful.
The tour was incredible. We saw Mission Control, the actual room where they monitored launches, just like in the movie Apollo 13. All those consoles, the giant screens, the sense of history soaked in every surface. We saw the rockets up close, including the Saturn V lying horizontal in a hangar. And let me tell you, until you've stood next to a Saturn V, you cannot comprehend the scale. We saw the crawlers, the ones Dad worked on, still in use to this day. And we stood at the viewing stands where the spectators watched launches. The same stands that had been there when I was 7. It was a pilgrimage. That's the only word for it. I was saying goodbye to Dad all over again.
The trip wasn't all heavy emotions, though. We had some genuinely fun times back in Tampa.
Yep. Absolutely. So we're staying at Rick and Mary's condo, and Mary's son, Luke, is there, a fantastic young man, and Luke has a dog. Now, when I say Luke has a dog, I need you to understand this is not some golden retriever or cocker spaniel. This is Riggs, a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Picture this. I'm 6'4", 250 pounds, and this dog made me look small.
Riggs loved you immediately.
He sure did. I don't know what it was, but Riggs decided I was his person for the week. He'd sit next to me, sleep next to me, follow me around, and when I mentioned the word walk, folks, this dog dragged me around the complex like I was a toy on wheels. Here's this guy, 6'4", 250 pounds, being pulled along by a bull terrier. And I'm just laughing because what else can I do? People would see us and crack up.
It was the funniest thing I ever saw. That dog Riggs pulling a 250-pound man down the street. And then after that, Luke took us golfing.
Boy, did he ever. Full 18 holes, all expenses paid. Green fees, club rental, golf cart, everything. This was Luke's treat for us. The golf course was absolutely stunning. Lush, perfectly manicured, the kind of place you see in magazines. And my golf game that day, well, how do I put this delicately? It was catastrophically ugly.
No way, honey. You golf the way that Brian Lyon golfs. But the most exciting thing about the golf course was seeing alligators.
Yes, I was terrible, but I still had one of the best golf days of my life. Mark Twain once said golf is a good walk spoiled, and he was right. But it was a beautiful walk with Patti, spoiled by my complete inability to hit a golf ball straight. And honestly, my biggest concern wasn't the sand traps. Like Patti said, it was the alligators in the sand traps. Florida golf courses, they really keep you on your toes. You're not just worried about bogeys, you're worried about becoming dinner.
We also went to a Tampa Bay's game.
We sure did. Tropicana Field, the domed stadium. Now, I have to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of domed stadiums in baseball. It's more like doomed stadiums. There's something about outdoor baseball, the sun, the sky, that's essential to the experience. But the Ted Williams Museum was inside the stadium at that time, and that made up for it. That museum was beautifully done. Memorabilia, photos, his story told with real reverence. That was memorable.
And then we went to Dunedin, to the Beatles Museum.
Yeah, Dunedin. This is a gorgeous little resort town right off of the Gulf of America. Luke told us about it. We went to a Beatles Abbey Road Museum there, and we had a tremendous time. Beatles memorabilia, photographs, history, and the best part, they let you dress up in Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band uniforms, just like on the album cover. So we have a photo of Patti and me looking absolutely ridiculous and having the time of our lives dressed as members of the world's most famous fictional band, Sgt. Pepper.
We had dinner at a seafood restaurant there, right on the water.
We sure did. Beautiful sunset, fresh seafood, the Gulf breeze. It was lovely. Now, I have to say, and I say this with all due respect to Florida seafood, the fish was good, but it wasn't as good as our favorite restaurant back home, Put-in Bay. There's something about the Lake Erie perch and walleye that just can't be beat. But we didn't tell the folks in Dunedin about that. And while we're talking about this trip, I'm struck by how many threads came together that week. Rick and Mary's extraordinary generosity in giving us their condo, the chance to return to Cocoa Beach after more than 50 years, the pilgrimage to Kennedy Space Center, the time we spent with Luke and Riggs, the golf, the baseball, the Beatles, the seafood, all of it woven together into this tapestry of memory and meaning.
And grieving our dad through all of it.
Yep, through it all. That's the thing. Life doesn't stop for grief. Joy and sorrow sometimes walk hand in hand. I was heartbroken about losing my dad, but I was also grateful. For Rick and Mary's kindness, for the chance to walk where Dad walked, and for Patti being there with me through it all. When I was on that bus at Kennedy Space Center, and tears were flowing as I passed the vehicle assembly building, I felt Dad's presence so strongly. It wasn't sad exactly, it was a connection across the boundary between here and whatever comes next. He was there with me.
Failure is not an option. That's what they say at NASA, right?
Right. Gene Kranz, the flight director during Apollo 13. And that trip reminded me that Dad's legacy isn't just in the history books or the museums. It's also in me and my brothers. In the stories that I tell, like I'm telling now. It's in that white Marion hard hat sitting in my man cave, waiting for the next time I need to feel close to him.
Rick and Mary gave us more than just a free place to stay. They gave us space to heal.
Absolutely right. And we can never fully express our gratitude for that. So again, thank you, Rick. Thank you, Mary. Your generosity, your thoughtfulness, your love. Thank you, Luke. You all gave us a gift we didn't know we needed, and it made all the difference.
And thank you all for listening to us reminisce, for letting us share this story.
Sometimes the best vacations aren't about escaping life. They're about finding your way back to the parts of yourself you'd forgotten. Florida in 2019 did that for us. It reminded me where I came from, who my dad was, and why his work mattered. It gave me permission to grieve and to celebrate in the same breath. It also showed me once again that family, whether by blood or by choice, is everything.
This has been the Patti and Brian podcast.
The Patti and Brian podcast. I'll get it right eventually.
I'm not holding my breath.
Take care of yourselves, folks. Hug your families, tell your stories, and remember, failure
is not an option.